it's a bit specific to Odoo that when you start at Odoo as a developer, you don't know directly which team you will join.
Hello and welcome to this new episode of Odoo Unplugged. So today we're going to discuss onboarding with developers in our company. So I'm Olivier Colson, I am the host, I'm a developer at Odoo. So we're going to talk about my job a little bit, but not only my job because it's only theirs. So I have fine guests with me. Could you maybe guys start introducing each other?
So I will start. So first, thank you for having me here. I'm Maximilien. I'm a software developer in Odoo since a bit more than a year and a half. And I'm doing the onboarding process in the accounting team since I think like 8 months or so.
Okay. Okay, Myra?
Okay. Hi, I'm Mayra. Thank you for the invitation also. I joined Odoo in December 2023, so 5 months ago. And
So you're a newbie.
newbie. And I started in the accounting team in January, so very fresh.
We have a lot of people from the accounting team. And we have Amy.
Yes, hi everyone. So actually I'm not developer myself. I'm part of the recruitment team at Odoo. I started at Odoo 6 years ago. And of course I know some interesting stuff about the onboarding of developers that I recruit.
Yeah, I mean, it was important to have someone from your team with us because, I mean, you're like piloting the process, right?
Yeah, not me only, but yes.
Not you only, okay, but your team is like on top of it. Come on, say it.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what is the onboarding process? Let's say I'm just fresh out of university. I'm applying at Odoo. I'm accepted within the company. What happens then?
Yeah, so now we have a really structured onboarding process. First of all, you have 2 weeks of functional training. So what it is about, it's basically just to give you the basic guidelines about what is Odoo, how the software is working and so on. And it's the same onboarding for all the new people joining Odoo. No matter if you will be a developer or a salesperson, you have the same onboarding at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Those 2 weeks are really focused on the product directly.
And I think it's a good thing actually because Odoo can be very complex actually because we cover a lot of different functional subjects, and it gives like an idea of everything that is going on in the software to everyone, and whatever your job, you will need to interact with that in some way, right? So how does it go? What's the look of this training then? What happens?
Yeah, maybe Mayra, if you want to talk about it because it's really fresh in your mind.
True. It's a bit like a crash course of Odoo in the first 2 weeks, and it's really interesting that, as you mentioned, we are with all the other people from other departments. So there are salespeople, there are one business analyst, I think, and a lot of developers. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool because you see how people interact with Odoo in different ways. So sometimes we had to watch videos, and then sometimes we had to prepare demos. So you see like the way the developer thinks is a little bit different from the way that the salesperson thinks. And we work together to create the demos, for example, and present it to each other. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's 2 weeks of crash course understanding Odoo in all the products.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was also told you visited the Lab Odoo, right?
Yes.
So the Lab Odoo, cool. Could you explain what is it?
So now I have 2, I think. But before,
you have 2.
When I did my onboarding was just the one, and then it's this big truck, purple truck with basically all the functions that a company may have and how you use Odoo to perform the function. So you go in and you're immersed in a company all of a sudden, like doing the marketing, the manufacturing, hiring people, and using Odoo.
And so you have some kind of collective workshop where you're each on your like workstation doing the thing.
And then go around,
And by the way, if the audience is interested, there was an episode of the podcast Planet Odoo about the Lab Odoo. Go listen to it. Okay, and so this training lasts 2 weeks, right? There is the certification at the end.
Yeah, there is
the
an
big
exam.
Judgment, the final trial.
Yes, of course. Well, it's not like mandatory to succeed that certification, but it's a good way to.
So maybe what is the certification for people? So it might seem obvious, but it's because we talk about it all the time.
Yeah,
what is it?
It's basically to know your level on Odoo on a lot of different apps, and you have a percentage at the end, and yeah, it's like an exam about Odoo.
And it's like the test that like partners or wannabe partners need to pass in order to become partners.
Yes,
right?
it's the real certification. Exactly. Yeah.
But here you're not obliged to succeed.
No.
If you fail it, you're not fired.
No, of
Hopefully.
course, 2 weeks. 2 weeks about Odoo. It's not possible to succeed like 100% at the certification, but yeah, I think we have an average of around 50% to this certification, which is very good for after 2 weeks. So yeah,
and it's a lot of things like being thrown at you at once, and you never had any contact with Odoo before.
Sure.
Yeah.
Plus, for a lot of people, I mean, for developers, it's typically the case. You arrive with like that, so you were out of university or even some other company, but maybe you weren't working for an ERP. So maybe the things we were telling you about, you're just discovering them, and it's just not your background. And you need to remember everything, remember all the business cases, and master that as much as possible. Of course, it's not easy to remember everything, because if you're in it, if you're in the field really, of course it will make more sense. And so I think it's really interesting to have certification like that. So back in my days when I started, it wasn't like that at all. We had like videos to watch. It was like the best part. That was like a big moment of my career. I never reached that ever again. That's a big pity. I regret it.
You can go back and do the process again if you want.
And we didn't pass certification at that time, but I think it's interesting because indeed, at least it's interesting if you tell people in advance, I guess you do, that okay, it's fine if you fail it, because it just gives them an idea of what mastering Odoo from a functional point of view means. And I think so for developers, it's interesting because it's something they might not touch that much after.
Exactly, yeah.
That's not always their job, at least they will specialize on one app or the framework. And for business analysts, for sales, it's just like some foreshadowing of the experience they will get anyway. Yeah,
and they will go into details after that in all the different apps. But something, yes, we have to mention is that we don't expect from a new employee to master Odoo. We don't expect any specific knowledge about Odoo. So this is why 2 weeks about Odoo, it's not really,
Not enough.
It's not enough to know Odoo. Yeah.
How well did it go for you for the certification then?
The certification, I think for me it was like I did like 55%, but I was really stressed when I passed it. I knew it was like not mandatory to succeed, but I wanted to do good.
55 is fine.
Yeah, that's but it was pretty good.
What's the average?
It's around 50%.
Above the average. But I remember I was a bit stressed, but I find it really interesting to either the certification and the videos, because even for developers, you can see all the scopes, and it gives you an idea of the different apps and where do you want to work maybe when you will join a team.
Sure, indeed.
And even after that, when you say to people, I work at Odoo, you can explain what is Odoo exactly, you know, because you have a good idea of globally how it works.
Sure. Mara, how did it go for you?
Yeah, also I didn't pass. I think it was around 60%.
It's very good, Mara. It's very good.
Thank you. Winner.
Congratulations.
No, but it was interesting to see how some things come more easily to some people. Like for me, the most complicated part was the whole MRP, kind of the manufacturing, and
it's often like the one people.
Yeah, usually accounting is not
accounting
the easiest
and MRP
one.
Are like the top things.
So hard. But yeah, it's a bit stressful because you have your time, and you want to do good, but at the same time you're like, there's no way I can remember everything. And then in the end, I was surprised with the result. It was actually better than expected.
And so after those 2 weeks, so Odoo is like a big framework on his own. So there is a technical training after that. How does it go?
Yes, of course. So all developers, they have 2 weeks of technical training. The goal is there to focus on the tools that we use, but also to focus on Python and JavaScript. which
So
are
you even get the basics of the language in the training. So you're not expected to know Python and JS before arriving at Odoo?
Not at all. What is really important for us is that you master one programming language.
Yeah, of course.
No matter which one it is, because we believe that if you are a really good Java developer, you will easily learn Python when arriving at Odoo.
Which is a good point, because all languages pretty much look alike each other. Of course, there are big differences in the way to do things and what is considered clean. So between Java and Python, there is a big difference, for example. But
I'm not sure, but
still, there is. I'm telling you, there is a big one. But anyway, it's still programming, and indeed, the things you don't know about the culture of the language, you can get them pretty easily.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And so this training, then, what happens with it? So that's the part you're involved in, right?
No, I'm involved in the next one, but in the technical part, you will be you will first install Odoo on your computer. So you will have to not getting into much details, but cloning the repository and everything. So all the GitHub stuff, and then you will have exercise. And in the exercise, you will learn a bit about the framework. So first is the Python framework that you will learn, and I think it will last more like a week and a half. And in this week and a half, you will learn with the exercise a lot about how the framework works with the ORM and everything. And then you will do the GS framework, the GS training, which is a bit more recent. When I started working at Odoo, we didn't have that training. I think it's like maybe 5 months old or something like that. So you did the GS training, right?
Yes.
And actually, it was a friend of mine who did the training and who created it. And I think it's a really good training for people because OL is a totally new thing at the time, and a lot of people didn't know how it works. And yeah, the training is really helpful for that.
I'm happy we had the opportunity because they told us, at least in my batch, that we did the Python part quite fast together as a group, so we had more time with the JS framework. So that was good because when I started actually working in accounting, there were some things that were familiar already from the JS because I don't have a strong background in that. So it was really helpful. And also we have two, I don't know if everybody has two kind of onboarders helping the technical, or if it's just
yes,
one.
Depending on the size of the newbies group, I would say there is one or two onboarders.
So the group is assigned a person to like take care that everything goes fine, and to have one reference person, I guess, to whom they can ask questions.
Yeah, and those onboarders are in the same room as the new developers. So as soon as, I don't know, you have a question, you can ask the onboarder directly. You don't have to wait a meeting or something like that.
That was super nice. And also, like, we were pushing our results, like what we're doing to Git, and then we could get comments about that. So from the onboarders, and then that already helps understanding a bit better, like how do you write a commit message for Odoo and things like that. So it was really helpful to have them in the room and then their feedback in this written format also.
And it's good because it also encourages you to have like this discussion pretty much about everything, which is really like representative of the way we work. So it puts you in the mood, I would say, of the actual job, right?
Preparing you already.
Okay, about maybe the deadlines that you would have for those things, because I remember from my onboarding, it was something that was really worrying me because it was like not at all like that. It was more simple actually, but maybe not in a good way. And so you had a few things to discover. Basically, you read the tutorial on the website and you code something. And I remember that I was like, I was just out of university. I was like, I wasn't sure that I would fit within the company world. I knew that I knew how to program. I knew that I was good doing that. That was not a problem. But just, am I good enough for the job, for what they want me to do? Because you never know, huh? And so I was a bit worried about the deadlines and so on. And so, is there something to handle that, or do they know? Do they have like a hard deadline, so you have to have finished for that date, or how do they know if they are doing okay? Is there some kind of way for them to know that?
Yeah, so of course, it's true that a few years ago, the onboarding was not what it is now. And months after months, we try to improve that onboarding. And of course, the calendar is also part of this improvement. So now there is a specific agenda to follow with specific hours where you have to do that or that. So you know exactly where you are in your day, what you have to do by the end of it. And if you are a bit early on your planning, you can just go to the next day, or you have to work a little bit more so now it's very, very well structured.
But at least you can position yourself, and if you're late on something, you will know it, which is, I think, good. I guess we don't put too much pressure on them respecting the planning, like you finished 1 hour late, it's terrible. But it's good to have that because it's reassuring, actually.
Yeah, but I have to say that maybe you will tell me if I'm wrong, but it's quite intense. So it's not like, you start at Odoo, it's very chill, cool, and so on. No, we expect from you from day one to work hard, because you have to learn a lot of things in a very short period of time. So I don't know how you experienced it, but I know it's quite intense.
Yeah, it was. Even like just watching the videos, sometimes, like you have this kind of thought that it's going to be simple and relaxing, but then you have the schedules and you see how much there is to see and to watch and to learn. And in the first 2 weeks, it's really packed. And then in the second 2 weeks, so like the technical part, I mean, it's just like a big block of Python training. So you kind of understand how you're doing compared to your colleagues by talking to them, and then just seeing with them like, okay, I'm a bit behind, so can you help me with this? And then some people
it's also good to have a group for that, because frankly I'm like talking a bit about the old onboarding, but it was 7 years ago. It's fine. I can do it legally. I can do it.
Just before
the way it went for me, it was really, you hear those people, so you're in the middle of an office with actual Odoo employees. So I wasn't part of a batch or anything, because it happened like that. That's just it. And there were actually people that had entered the company just before me, but I didn't know. So I learned that afterwards. So fine. And you keep hearing people talking about things with very specific words, with all this Odoo vocabulary that we use every day, and you're like, am I supposed to understand everything he said? Because this, that, and that, I'm not exactly sure. And you're not. You're not sure whether you will look like an idiot if you ask what is that. And so I was lucky because I had a very good friend of mine who was my best friend, actually, who had entered the company like three months before me. And it was like the reason I applied. So Laurent, he's still there. We work in the same team. That's the best part. And hi, Laurent.
Best friend forever.
And every time I had the question where I was like, I wasn't sure it would make me look like an idiot, I asked him, actually. So I was kind of replicating what you do now.
Yeah,
but I think it's good to have it, because it's really helping the thing. Plus, also, I guess with this you make friends in the company right away, and it is very important.
No, it's still nice. Like most of us ended up in the same farm, so we can still have lunch together from time to time, at least from the developers, and then the other people from like the first 2 weeks. It's a bit harder because some of them are in Lèna, but we still have like our group on Discord to keep in touch.
Just so people understand, to make sure the farm is the office. That's an Odoo thing. Just Google it.
But that's also something we improved, because in the past we had no specific starting date for new people. So they were starting, I think, every Monday. When I started, it was like each Monday there is someone new starting in the company. Now it's every first Monday of each month. So we have a larger batch of people starting in the company. And it makes you feel like you're a part of a group of people sharing the same fears, maybe the same stress about a new job and so on. So what you experienced, Olivier, I think it's better now. You don't have this feeling anymore like, oh my God, I don't know if I can ask my questions to who. And something we say also on the first day of people is that there are no stupid questions. This is how you learn at Odoo. It's by asking questions to the others. So it's really important to know that. And of course, yes, Odoo is not perfect. So we improve months after months, even now also. So yeah, we try to do our best, even if everything is not perfect, of course.
Sure, but it's, as you say, it's a continuous improvement. And I was joking a bit about about the fact I was talking badly about the old onboarding, but it still went fine. I'm still there. Frankly, the first 2 weeks were a bit hard, but then I realized it was actually okay if I asked things, and eventually I was more chill about all that. But indeed, it's good to have something to ensure that at the beginning, because I think it will at least spare people a lot of stress, and that is good, really. So once the technical training is done, what happens? So they need to go. You mentioned it, into a team. How do we choose which one? Do they choose? What happens?
Actually, they kind of choose because, and Amy, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but we have like an Excel sheet with the team that are looking for a new developer, and so you can like rank them between, like, I think it's 5 or 6 teams each time.
It depends.
Yeah. And then so you can rank them from 1 to 5, for example, and usually you can expect to join the team that has the like the priority that you put. But for example, in my case, I had a meeting with so the guru of the accounting team, Quentin, which was not in the Excel sheet, and he wanted like a newbies like 3 or 4 weeks after. But when I talked to him and when he did the presentation of the accounting team, I was really eager to start working there, and so he accepted me to add me to the team, even if it wasn't part of the sheet. So
there is flexibility.
Yeah, there is flexibility. You are not like obliged to start in the 5 team that we give you. But yeah.
Yeah, we have a process in place, but it's not very strict, and it's a really good example, Maximilien, because if among the different teams looking for a new member, you don't really find what you're looking for at Odoo, you can just by yourself meet another team, discuss with them, and say, hey, I would like to join. Can I join? And that's it. So yeah, but it's a bit specific to Odoo, that when you start at Odoo as a developer, you don't know directly which team you will join. It can seem a bit weird, but actually it's really at the end of the technical training, so after a month at Odoo, that you will meet those different teams looking for a new member, and you will discuss with them, see how they work. You have a first idea of the atmosphere in the team, you have a contact with the persons and so on, and then you can make a choice. But I would say you are never stuck in a team. So if after a few months you feel like you would like to go somewhere else, no problem at all. You don't have to follow a specific process or something like that. You can just easily switch to another one, and yeah.
And it's good you mentioned that, because again, people might think it can be tricky to just change team if you're not pushed to it, because you could frustrate someone. You could seem rude, whatever. And it's good it's good that it's clear for everyone that they're free to do what they want, essentially. Maybe not what they want, but they're free. And does it happen often that some developers some developer enters a new team, and then after not so long wants to change?
It happens, but usually I would say that even if the person will not join maybe his favorite team, when you start in a team, you want to focus on the job, and you discover new colleagues, you have maybe some new friends, I don't know, and it makes you feel like you want to stay there. Of course, but as I told you, you can go to another team, but I would say that from what I see, it's usually people with a few years of experience in a team that will have the wish to move to another one.
I can really see now that I'm approaching the 6-month mark. That's when they say you should, if you want to change teams, wait 6 months and then you can maybe change.
Okay, so that's the moment. Do you want to change? What do you have to say?
I love accounting. But I can really see why people don't, because that's when you're starting to feel comfortable with everything, like that you're learning the scope and just understanding the code much better, but it takes a while. So after 6 months, I'm like, okay, now, 4 months. But now I'm starting to understand. I'm not moving from here.
And accounting was your first choice?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
But my batch of people are very lucky also because we talked a lot maybe when choosing the teams. So we were 6 or 7 developers and all of us got the first choice except one person, but it was the second choice that they had. So it was still pretty good.
And that still seems crazy to me because a few years ago, accounting was the team, as you mentioned, actually, it was one of the teams, it's one of the most complex things. Oh, no, I want to go there. It seems so,
it was really complicated
really
to have new people joining you. Yeah. And now it's one of the best one, I would say. There is a really nice atmosphere. It's really, it's really an example of,
we're doing a good job.
But frankly, I think the onboarding process maybe eases that as well because people might feel more comfortable about the product because of the new onboarding, and so it maybe it removes the final frontier barrier that they had towards accounting. So who knows?
At least for me, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to join accounting, is because I heard the atmosphere was really nice, and there was an onboarding in place. So knowing that there is structure around, it was really a reason.
Yeah. Sure, because indeed there is an onboarding in place within the team itself. Maybe I'm just okay, because we are actually getting close to the pause, the break. So I think this will be for just after the break. But before that, we have a few questions in the chat that maybe we can answer. We have this one, which is interesting. What coding tools developers at Odoo use, and what is the DX? What is that like? Do you know? What is the ideal development environment setup? Do we advise tools for developers? Do we?
Not really.
Is there like one standard to follow?
Not really. If you speak about like where to code, I know a lot of people use PyCharm or VS Code or even Vim. So there's not like an indication or a mandatory stuff to use. You just have to clone the repository of in GitHub and on your computer, and then you can use whatever you want to code. So there's no real tool that we use in our daily life. So
so basically people choose.
Yeah, choose they want to. Yeah,
which is good because I think it's one of the things with programming. You have multiple churches like that, philosophical schools, and they don't like each other most of the time. So for example, I'm pretty extreme on that side because I don't like IDEs. I don't like having tons of things popping on the screen all the time and computing things. But when you're just writing code, it's just no. So I'm not a Vim guy, but I'm not so far from them. I understand. Nearly. I understand them. Okay, but
and I don't.
But yeah, and you have other people that have just the opposite mindset because they like to have something that is like more with tons of things integrated and that is like flashing red all the time when you have typed something that looked a bit suspicious and I think it's nice to have the choice for that because you will feel more comfortable in your job anyway, and so you will do a better job, I think. So with this, we've reached the time for the break, so I suggest we do it, and we'll be back in a few minutes for the following steps of the onboarding process. Welcome back for the next steps of your onboarding. Why not? So we were just discussing about developers choosing the teams they would like to go into. So then we pick one, hopefully the one they preferred. Then what happens? So they enter the team. And no, that's the part you take care of.
That's the part of the onboarding in the team. So you have to know that it's in each team it will be different. So some team have an onboarding and some don't. I know that some team has like fake task or fake ticket to do and like to really learn about the process and
train yourself.
Yeah, to train, of course. Here in accounting, it's a bit different. So we have an onboarding that lasts more or less 6 months. It will really depend on the people. Some people are totally autonomous after 3 months, and so we let them fly with their own wings because for us it's good. So it really depends on the people and the task they are doing and everything. But we have tasks that so in the process of the task, we have, I don't know if you already mentioned in maybe another episode how it works, but it works kind of with a project app that's kind of a Trello, if you know the application.
Yeah, so it's Scrum, Agile programming.
And so there is different columns, and in the first column is all the tasks that are ready to be developed. And so on those tasks, we put a tag that is newbie. And that's for example, tasks that are more simple and that will give the developer an insight of how the code works. Usually it will be like, for example, changing something in the view, or changing something like in the logic of a functionality or some stuff like that. It's really to learn about the code and how it works. And so all the newbies will start with that for I think first 2 months, they will start with newbies task. And when I think they're ready, they can go to more difficult tasks or normal tasks, I would say.
I think it's interesting because they start with a real job, actually. And what they do, so it's not just exercises anymore. It's really
stuff for
actual
the application,
tasks, more simple, of course, but hey, you don't want to put them on some big refactoring that will imply them to rewrite everything after a few weeks. It's not good for them.
No, and we had the case before the onboarding was created that some people did a lot of big tasks after like 4 or 5 months of like being in the team, and it's not okay to do that because they're not ready. So we really tried with the onboarding process to improve, because accounting team became a really huge team in a few months. It like nearly doubled the number of people in the team. So
I remember approximately when you entered, that's what happened. Suddenly we doubled the team, and that was very challenging, and very scary for us, because we were like, discovering suddenly you have a lot of newbies coming, and suddenly you have more responsibilities, you have people to follow. You try to do your job, your usual job, former job, I would say, next to it, and then it has to work. So eventually it worked really well, but I think indeed it's good that we have a more strict process, and that's the reason why we put that in place. Actually, maybe to go back on the kind of tasks we give to newbies, do you have examples of tasks that you got like that and that you implemented in the last month?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I think the simplest ones were just changing something in a view, or the message in a banner, or implementing a new banner. That's something that with the training we already quite know how to do quite well. But it's good to start with those, because then I could understand, for example, the pipeline, like how do things change, when do I have to wait for review, what to do if I need to change something, like
sure, because that's something we didn't talk about that much actually, but just the process around the code review, and then you ask a review, you wait for someone to do it, and all that is also something you need to learn.
What do I do if I need to change something, like who do I talk to, who do I wait for feedback, these kind of things. Having a simple task is good because you can understand the process around it. And then it progressively gets a bit harder with time, like a localization, which is, it's not necessarily hard programming, it's just hard understanding.
It's a lot of accounting new concepts. So.
Exactly.
So and it's interesting because often, the localization, at least the things we give to newbies, are often about like basic concepts. There are a lot of them, and you need to understand how they interact. So it's anyway paramount that you get them at some point in your career in the accounting team, and so that's, I think, a good way to discover it, because indeed you're just using it, so you need it, you learn it, which has like always been like the motto for R&D, even if we worked like the old way, even at the very, very, very beginning, before I entered Odoo in ancient times, where there were only a few people in the company, they had to learn on the spot how to do the thing, and it's good. I think it's interesting that we kept this way of working, but just make sure that they learn on the spot on something that will not make them crazy, I don't know, lose their mind.
Because when I joined the team in accounting, we didn't have the onboarding process, and it was really difficult, even for me, because when I took a task. It was the first task that I've done. It was a big localization for Croatia, for example, and hopefully I was able to do it, but it was really difficult at first. And I had a friend in the team, so it was Ruben, and he helped me a lot with the task. But if I didn't had him, it would be even more difficult. So I think it's really important that now that we are a lot, we have this onboarding process.
And I had a question for you, but how were you given this responsibility to onboard new people? Because you are really new in the company as well. So
first, it was Ruben that did the onboarding process. It's really him that talked to Quentin and tried to make it more official and structured. But at the time, he had like 8 newbies at the same time, and so it was impossible to follow. And I talked to Ruben at the time saying, I'm interested to do it because nice. I wanted to have more responsibility, and I was interested in managing people and everything because that's something that I like. And so I proposed myself, and Quentin proposed to me after that, and so I accepted directly. And I think it's been 6 or 8 months that I'm doing it. So. And it's going fine. From the feedback that I have, it's going fine.
It's a really nice story. This is really what I like about Odoo, is how you can evolve very quickly. If you want to, it's amazing. I mean, after a few months, you can onboard people, do some people management. If you want to, it's possible. That's crazy, but it's really good for you. I mean, it's I'm
learning a lot of stuff, and I'm doing, for example, formation and training, and I'm learning a lot. So I really like it.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think it's the core of it actually, because. As you say, why not? Actually?
Yeah, exactly.
If it works, if the guy is good,
why waiting?
Why not?
Why waiting 5 years?
So, indeed, I would say just the follow-up of the newbies. So, like, that's something we do in accounting, as you mentioned it. It's not like that in every team. Do we have information of what the other teams are doing? Because we have a lot of people of accounting here.
Not really.
I think most of them now have an onboarding in place because the teams are larger than before, so it's important. I know that we still have some really small team. I think they still work like when you started at Odoo, like you learn from scratch and you ask questions to the few people around you. But when you are in a team of more than 15 people...
Yeah, and I think it's important to give an order of magnitude to people for that, because accounting is like 35, 40 people now.
It's 40 people now.
That's huge. And of course, it's not the same in every other team, and it's like that in accounting because we have a lot of different apps that we need to take care of, localizations and so on, and we didn't split the team, which is usually what we do to keep smaller teams and have like a more local management each time, just because we feel like if we do that, it will also split the knowledge, and if it splits the knowledge, we'll do less good work. That's just it. So indeed, if you're in a smaller team, I think it's less necessary to do what we do, which is very structured, because there were too many people, and we felt like just before doing that, we decided to do that because we felt like we were like losing a bit control, and that was no, that's not okay. You want to know and to be able to follow people properly, because at the end, if something fails for one of them, and if you end up firing someone, it might be just your fault because you were not able to onboard this person properly, and so you don't want that. You want to give the full chance to everyone.
And it's scary for newcomers, like coming in a team with 40 people.
Sure.
You don't know anyone. You have to ask questions to unknown people, and so having the coach, it's really helpful for that.
Yeah. Do you know everyone's name?
No. Not yet.
Not yet.
That's a tricky question.
It's a lot of people.
And it's also about the experience, because in the recruitment team, we try to give the best recruitment experience for the candidate, but it's also important that the experience when you start in the company is very good as well. And the first few weeks are really, really important, because it will gives you the first idea that you have about how it is to work at Odoo. So,
and I think it's also something that like enforces that as well, is that is indeed the autonomy that each team has, because the fact that the guru is responsible of basically everything that happens in his team and what kind of process they follow, as long as, well, the job is done. It's very important as well, because that's part of this freedom and this very comfortable side, because if the guru is really comfortable with his way of working within his team, he's going to be, I think, more friendly with the team. The every relationship they will have will be easier, actually, and will feel more comfortable for everyone at the end. And so having that flexibility is important as well, I think. So we have a few questions in the chat. Let's just ask them now. I feel like it's the right time just before moving on to the next step. So okay, let's go with this one. It's a bit off, so we will answer it in a very specific way, but I think it's interesting because we can emphasize a bit of the process with it. So is there, I'm nervous. Is there a method adopted by Odoo developers to make customization code framework agnostic, as in clean architecture methodology? So
for you guys.
Let's yeah, I'm sorry.
Just too much information.
That's very technical. But let's take the meaning of it, actually. How do we make sure that we don't screw up when writing code, and we ensure that customization is easy, that the architecture is clean, and that we have something that is not only maintainable but that is efficient? Because I think that is also important, and that is coming back to this thing of having tasks for newbies. It's also in the same idea. So we don't have and I think it's like. You can feel it from everything we said before, but we don't have a fixed methodology, a list of bullet points to follow for everything, an algorithm that each of us follows to validate something. That's not an Odoo thing. Though we have the code review, as we mentioned, and it is something we take a lot of care of, and that's why it's important to have the newbies task split, or at least reviewed very thoroughly by more experienced people. We have that review mechanism. And the goal of the review is really to ensure that the code is clean. So it's not only, it's working, it's clean,
it needs to be clean,
and it's doing what we want it to do. And the customization part and the ability to plug things everywhere around it in Odoo is the most important thing, because Odoo is all about that, actually. Modules that you install together and that will add features on top of each other. So of course there are sometimes things that we need to arrange a little bit, and sometimes we screw up, like in every company, but that's the way we ensure it. So no strict methodology, but that's something we have in mind all the time. And so the reviewers, the gurus are pushing for that all the time. And I think you all had reviews where one of us was okay, that's working, but don't do it.
Yeah, but most of the time with newbies task, because it's simple in logic, the review are mostly nitpicking on how the indentation must be.
But it's good because it's putting them slowly in the right direction. It's putting them in the right direction.
Yeah.
And not directly giving them something, they will do something that is not okay, and just ask them to rewrite everything. And so I think you learn things more step by step like that, which is way less frustrating, because there is nothing worse than having a review of 100 commentaries where the guy asks you to change everything. It still happens sometimes, but frankly, I can say that the reviewers feels a bit bad about that, because you're I wouldn't have liked to receive a review like that, so you try to be kind and so on, but you need to do it. That's the job. So that's basically it.
Yeah, but I gotta say, about the reviews, I think I learn as much, or maybe even more, with the comments in the reviews as when I'm, just digging into the code and trying to understand and trying to implement something, because I feel like all the comments I'm getting now from the review are things I'm going to use in every single PR in the future. Like indentation, or making things just less complicated sometimes. So this process is really learning still, the reviews.
Sure. Maybe let's take the next question. Let's take this one. Is the internal onboarding process publicly published? Can you share links, please? So about the 2 weeks training at the beginning, is that public?
I think the training is
Actually, the whole documentation, all the videos that we follow as a newbies, functional one but technical ones as well, everything is in the documentation of Odoo, is open to everyone, of course.
So that's great. And of course the certification, well, you can pass it on your side as well if you want. That's the original goal of the certification. Okay, and about the technical thing, then it's more complicated. So again, the technical training from the very beginning, I guess it's the same. It's in the documentation.
It's in the documentation,
but all the things that are more specific to the team. So as we say, there is no specific program to follow, and it depends on the team. And so that is, it's not only that it's not just that it's not public. It's just that there is nothing really written. It's just a way of working, and so
it will depend on
work
the
on actual tasks. So this of course. Take your own. So that was for the questions. Okay, so maybe now. So that's the full process. Yeah, we discussed pretty much every step. Is there some? How do you assess? So that's a question for you. That's your part. How do you assess whether this works well? Is there any way to get? How do you get feedback on that? I suppose you follow the well, I was going to say candidates, but they're not candidates anymore. The
new employee.
Between every step, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so of course, have feedback is really important because, as I told you, Odoo is not perfect. We're not doing a perfect job. So actually, someone from recruitment team is doing a follow-up after 4 months in the company for each new employee. We take the time to understand how was the first experience at Odoo, how they experienced the onboarding process, functional, technical ones, what was good, was maybe to improve. Then after that, we have another follow-up, but after 8 months, and it's done by someone from the payroll team. So they have another kind of contact with an HR person. And it's really, really important for us because we have improved a lot of stuff thanks to those feedbacks.
What kind of questions do you ask in these?
How was your first day at Odoo? What do you think about the onboarding process? Is it relevant or not for your job? How was the welcome in your team? Do you feel support enough? Can you ask your questions to someone? What do you think about the location of the office? Is it okay for you to commute to the office and so on? So it's very wide, actually. We ask a lot of type of questions. It's more like an informal discussion that you would have with a friend starting in a new company, basically.
Okay, so you not ask the questions one after the other. You have your checklist and you just like I'm doing since the beginning of this episode, actually, right?
And actually we are under the professional secret. So what the person will tell us is really secret. Of course, we can take actions if we believe that it's important because there are, I don't know, some problems in the management, for example, or the person is feeling very bad in the team. But we will always ask the person before doing anything.
Sure. And anyway, I guess you never come to someone saying, "Oh, you know what? Maximilian told me that you were doing this wrong." Yeah, that's just completely off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But we have that kind of process in the team actually, because here it's in 4 months after they joined, but in the team we have discussion every 2 weeks. It can be 1 week every week if we think it's relevant, and I always ask my newbie if we think it's relevant to have a meeting every week. But in those kind of meeting we talk about stuff related, but also non-work related stuff. And I always ask them how is it going in the team, how they feel. Is there any frustration that is built?
Which again is very important because we are a lot in the team, and you cannot have your eye on everyone all the time. It's just not possible. We're not even all sitting in the same office, so it's just impossible, physically impossible. And plus, I think it also prepares them for what is next, because we actually do that with non-newbies as well. And it's also a way of following the task and make sure that nothing is really blocking and that no one gets stuck for weeks without really daring to talk about it, or that something is not being done that goes in a completely wrong direction, and we find out about it 2 months later when it's finished. So this way we can be more reactive, and it's just also for the gurus of the team, just keeping in mind what is going on within the team, because just that is a challenge per se. So indeed, it's very important to do that.
It's important to do both, because I think to HR they can talk about maybe more sensitive stuff,
of course.
Maybe something they will not tell you directly.
Sure. And or say something about you. You never know.
Maybe it can happen as well.
Hope not, but
not you, but don't worry.
So and indeed, I think indeed it's important to have both, because the technical meetings like that, there might be also things that are like more, things that are not serious enough to be said in front of an HR, but that you would like the guy to be aware of, or that is really technical and purely something that you need to program to understand what the problem is with that, and so you need both essentially. Okay, and so when the feedback is really coming often, like recurring, then you take action, I guess. And so I don't know if a lot of people complain about, I don't know if it happened, I hope not, about some guru that would make, I don't know, weird jokes or racist stuff, whatever. Then you could just come to the guy and be like, okay, guy, dude, that's not okay, and that's part of it as well.
Yes, exactly. We take actions. We always try to do something very positive, and but to be honest, we don't have that much cases of like bad management as well. It happened in the past, but I have another example to give you, something quite simple but that had an impact. So as I told you, we have new people starting every first Monday of each month, and we believe that it was really nice to start the first day of Odoo experience. And we thought, it's really nice, you are inside the Odoo experience, so it's the big event that we have during 1 week, you are in the Odoo spirit and so on. And we had the feedback like it was super stressful for people. They don't know anything about Odoo, they don't know anyone, they were completely lost. So now that we had this feedback, the new people starting in October will start just right after Odoo Experience, but they will be invited to join, but they will not start officially at Odoo Experience.
And I think it's
and that's also like that's what we usually say at Odoo. We can do something wrong. We thought it was really good in our opinion, but then we just do differently, and it's okay. We just failed and we do something else now. So
indeed, because Odoo Experience is very dense actually, and typically I think there is difference if you tell a guy you can come if you want, or you have to come and it's part of your job, because if he has to come and it's part of his job, he comes, he has nothing to do, he doesn't know, of course he's new, and he could feel bad just because of that actually. Plus the fact that indeed no one has time to take care of him actually, and you cannot just tell him when he just enter, go talk with partners, whatever. No, because he doesn't know. He's no experience with that, and you need to get used to that communitary sphere around Odoo, because I think it's not like that at all with every company and all the partners, all that. It's very specific.
And it was so obvious for us that it was a really good idea that when we had the feedback like 15 times, like from all single person that started, we were like, oh my God, we were really wrong actually.
But I think it's a good example, because when you've been in a company like that, I think it's true everywhere, for long enough, there are things that will just seem normal, and it's fine. The thing is that newcomers might not feel them. It might not feel like that for them, and indeed, it's good you have this how do you say this way of questioning your own choices, and indeed to have the ability to have feedback on that, because you could realize that indeed you were doing something a bit maybe not wrong, but that was not taken the way you thought it would be taken. Okay, and that being said, we are reaching the end of the episode. Would you have? That was very spontaneous. Would you have like maybe a final word, something you feel like we didn't share about the onboarding, or on your own experience maybe, or did we cover everything perfectly? That would be nice.
No, maybe we are always open to new ideas. So if you do something different in your company, I would be super happy to have ideas of improvement. Yeah, you can. You have my name, so you can write me on LinkedIn.
All right. Nothing to add?
I know I can just say that for me it's really good to have a structured onboarding. Like, I'm a person that likes a bit of a structure, so even within Odoo where things are very flexible and you can always talk about something and change, having the onboarding in place just makes me so much more confident in my work, more relaxed also, so I'm pretty satisfied.
Nice.
It works.
You will tell it during the follow-up.
All right. Well, thank you all for your answers, for your insights. I think it was super interesting to have all those anecdotes and come back on the decisions we made. Thanks to the audience, of course. Feel free to come back for the next episode, of course, and see you then. Cheers.
Thank you, Olivier.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.